What is up, Steeler fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Hangover on this Victory Monday. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me is Shannon White. Shannon, how are you doing? Victory Monday, another win. The Steelers are now 4-1 and comfortably in the first place in the AFC North as we speak today. How are you feeling today?
I'm actually more encouraged than I have been in quite some time because yesterday's victory seemed like sustainable improvement.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like balance on both sides of the ball. Schematically, it was improved. Anything but predictable. I was very encouraged with yesterday's victory. It was more of a team victory and a team effort, including the coaching that we've seen for a while as a Steeler fan.
I agree. It was a continuation from what they left off in Ireland against the Vikings. In my opinion, they had the week off. The Vikings had to the Browns had to travel to play the Vikings, and I believe it was in London. And so they had a long trip back. They traded their their starting quarterback a couple of weeks ago, and Joe Flacco, to this week's opponent, which Mike Tomlin had some interesting words to say about, and we'll get into that. But final score 23-9. A little bit sloppy to the point where there was a few penalties, and the field was a terrible mess. What did you think about, first and foremost, the penalties? J.J. Watt was going on several times throughout the program stating that the Steelers were averaging about 4 penalties per game, and I think they ended up with like 10 or 11. Just kind of, chalk it up to being excited after a long break.
Well, it's funny. Me and you haven't spoken about this until now.
Yeah.
But I thought it was the worst called game I've seen all year. It was ridiculous. It was, again, there's calls and then there's unnecessary calls. There's times you're like, okay, you want everybody to see you on TV. And it was like ridiculous. They was, on both the offsides on TJ Watt, he wasn't offsides.
Yeah.
And both times he looks over to make sure, and the guys usually, as they said during the broadcast, will let you know if you might be a little close to the line to back up a little bit. Nothing, then they call it. It was just, I didn't even like the late hit or the unnecessary roughness call on Elliott. In my opinion, he tried to hit him with his shoulder, and they happened to glance helmets. But again, the main impact was with his shoulder into the sternum. Again, this is football, and it's getting to the point at times that they don't let them play football, and the refs think they're going to decide the game.
I couldn't agree with you more. The Jabril Peppers, crackback block that they supposedly threw on him. I was so angry about that.
Yeah.
I was like, the guy put his hands up and hit him with his back. Like,
yeah.
That's not a crack.
Yeah.
That's not a crackback block. The rule was intended for like what Hines Ward did to that Cincinnati player. That's what that was intended for. Yeah. Breaking a guy's jaw, going back towards the line of scrimmage, those type of things.
And I love that block. I love that hit by Ward, by the way. To me, that's football. And you was always taught, turnover, head on a swivel. You don't just blindly run because you might get taken out, which, of course, he did. But, yeah, I didn't even think. But, if you want to make the game, wussify the game like the NFL wants to, then take that out, fine. But what Peppers did was nothing.
It wasn't. And kudos to the young guy, Keyshawn Williams, number 85, brought up from the practice squad. I think he was signed to the active roster. Did some impressive things out there, in the kicking return game.
Yep.
And we'll start off there with the injuries. Miles Killebrew goes down. Don't look like he's going to be back anytime soon. He's one of the captains for this team on the special team side. He's going to be missed. How do the Steelers replace a captain on special teams like that?
Well, I don't know if anybody was paying attention yesterday, but even before Killebrew went down, Peyton Wilson is a beast on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had 3 tackles on special teams, or one. They might have been him and Connor Hayward. They might have given him half a tackle each. I don't know how that works, but
Right.
I think they've got the talent and the horses on special teams to kind of, because Gilbert, to be honest, he's a specialist. He's irreplaceable that way because he's that good that he makes the NFL roster every year based on how good he is on special teams. I mean, there's big guys like Tasker and other guys like that through the years, but Killebrew is in a class of his own. But hopefully, I haven't heard any for sure diagnosis yet, but hopefully he won't miss the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
But it looked good.
Yeah, I definitely didn't, and it was very unfortunate. Again, he's been a huge component to the special teams, as you mentioned. Has had a series of big plays throughout every year as a member of the Steelers on special teams. Yep. So he will definitely be missed. This week there's a game, so injury reports already been dropped because the game's on Thursday, and the only person who had outside of Killebrew that's on there for an injury designation is Calvin Austin. He didn't play this past week. How do you think that the wide receiver room did without Calvin Austin out there? We saw Roman Wilson, pick up a pass. Pat Freiermuth ended up getting 1 reception. How do you think the Steelers did without their number 2 wide receiver?
Well, Calvin Austin averages like 3 catches a game. As you said, Roman Wilson got 1. Pat Freiermuth got 1. You can say Jonnu Smith, I think he had more than 1. Darnell Washington picking up the slack as far as, as another threat in the receiving game. So we talked about it all offseason, and Arthur Smith's offense is really similar. It's been creative, I believe, and the way they've used Jonnu, the way they've used Mount Washington. They're even trying to get Roman Wilson involved. And I just, like I said, the wide receiver 2 has never had big numbers under Arthur Smith, except when I think it was Davis for the Titans, along with A.J. Brown. But I just don't. I mean, if they get another wide receiver 2, or Austin comes back and they start using him and Wilson more. But again, I just don't. I mean, what we're seeing is pretty much what we're going to get this year, I believe.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Do you think everybody's ready to stamp Darnell Washington as tight end 1 yet? Is he officially tight end 1? I mean, he's taken majority of the snaps. He's has the biggest effect on the field from the position. He has taken, him and Jonnu Smith both had 3 receptions, but Darnell was targeted 5 times compared to 4 times to Jonnu Smith. The amount of involvement that he has on this offense, in my opinion, is second to none. And so I'm ready to call him tight end 1. Are you?
Well, he's easily the most complete tight end because we know Jonnu and Freiermuth can't block to save their life. And we know that's Washington's forte. But this year he is actually being utilized, which I think he could have been in the past. They just didn't throw it to him. But he's got a quarterback capable and realizing what he could do. And I always tell my wife during the games, I'm like, he catches the ball, he gets an extra 5 yards because he's just dragging bodies. Tackling him would be like tackling a 55-gallon drum. Just go out and find you an empty 55-gallon drum and try to wrap your arms around it because that's how big that guy is. Yeah. And you see, they just bounce off of him.
Yeah. I mean, I would keep using him. If it's not broke, why try to fix it? I think it's done wonders for the rushing game. Having Darnell out there, I think it's done great for Broderick Jones. But, Broderick Jones on his own has done well. There was a stat that came out before the game that indicated that the Steelers were one of the teams that allowed him to be on an island for, higher than percentage. And he was also winning at a higher percentage when left out on the island. Myles Garrett, I think, had only 1 tackle. How do you think the offensive line did? And how do you think they've come along? Are they – I know we were both concerned early on in the season. Have they alleviated some of that concern for you?
That's the most encouraged I've been about the offensive line in a long, long time. because there was some cohesion. There was some chemistry. It wasn't like they weren't dominant yet, but it wasn't, immediate blown assignments or terrible footwork. I mean, it seems like a lot of times they go into the bye, they come out of the bye, and the offense looks the same. It's like, what did they do during those 2 weeks, leading up to their next game? But to me, you've seen improvement from the Minnesota game.
Yeah.
With the offensive line, they looked more cohesive and precise. And I've said all along that this offense will go as far as the offensive line can take them, because you've got a quarterback capable of making the adjustments, reading the field, delivering the ball on time and accurately, unless he's throwing to a wide receiver streaking 55 yards downfield wide open, and then for some reason he short armed it. But we'll go elsewhere. But I'm just saying that the offensive line was just such a blessing yesterday. And as bad as Broderick started the year, is the improvement he's shown over the last 2 to 3 weeks. And that's very encouraging. And you're starting to see Samalu maybe settle in a little bit because Jones is holding up his end of the bargain. So we're seeing improvement there, and Rodgers seems more comfortable.
I agree. I agree with all the words you stated. One of the things that they mentioned in the radio broadcast was that, they were talking about Darnell Washington and his size and how he's nowhere near 264.
No.
And so, they were talking to Tomlin apparently. And the discussion came up about moving Broderick into maybe perhaps a tackle position. I think he's capable. He goes up against some of the stout defensive ends and outside linebackers of the league, and has put them on their rear end. I remember a couple of years back, he was the one that was able to handle Bosa and some other pass rushers, and he's actually gotten the upper hand sometimes against some of these outside edge guys in training camp for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, can he transition there? And well, my question for you then is, if he does, which tackle is getting moved out? It's one thing to talk about it, but if he does move there, do you think that that's a possibility? Because, Tomlin did kind of mention, according to the broadcast, that they could grow old together, so to speak. And I'm assuming that means he's going to grow into that position. They even joked about the money that you can make as a tackle versus a tight end.
Yeah.
Do you see that future for Darnell Washington in Pittsburgh?
It's totally believable. I mean, in a perfect world, Broderick Jones just, locks up that left side.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes the left tackle he was drafted to be. And we just continue to see him gain confidence and improve fundamentally and his focus. Then you got Fautana, who I even said before the draft, the guy is super talented. He can play anywhere, but he's got the dimensions of a guard.
Mm-hmm.
And he can easily put on 15 pounds to, make sure he has the beef to handle that. And then you slide Broderick right in at right tackle. And he won't even hardly he just have to slide over one spot. Now, I'd like to see him stay at tight end and be productive like he was yesterday. What was it, like 3 catches for 60-something?
3 catches, 62 yards, a long of 36. He was able to get down the field. The big fella was rolling.
He was rolling, yeah. I mean, he going to have to make sure he hold on that ball a little bit better, but he was rolling, yes. For him and his future, longevity, because at his size, he's not going to be able to play a long time at tight end.
Right.
But at right tackle, we see, the guys like Williams and Lane Johnson and people like that have had a very long and prosperous career, because like you say, there's big money there. And he would instantly be the most athletic tackle in football.
I'd agree.
And he's got prototypical everything, length and arm length. And so, yeah, I mean, I can see it happening. And but that's just a good problem to have. I mean, and to have a guy as talented as Fontenot that can move inside to guard, and then you can slide McCormick over to the other guard when Kasiamalu's probably nearing the end. So, yeah, I mean, that would be a heck of a line if it worked out that way.
I think it definitely would. And last year that was the consideration. I had seen online that the consideration was that if Sayumalu was out for a long period of time, because remember in the beginning of the year he had like a pec injury, and there was a possibility that he was going to be out the full season. It ended up not being the case. He was only out for 4 or 5 games. There was conversation that Fautanu would have been the guy that would have been moved into the guard position, and then Broderick Jones out there on the tackle on the right side. But fortunately for Sayumalu, it didn't come down to that, and then unfortunately for Fautanu, he gets hurt after one game. So I definitely do see that if they were going to move somebody, not because I don't think Fautanu did a good job as a tackle. I think he did I think he did a pretty good job. I mean, Aaron Rodgers wasn't sacked once. He had some pressure. He got hit 3 times, but he wasn't
He was
sacked.
Getting rid of it fast. Yeah.
He was getting rid of it fast. But, I think that if he were to, if that's what the move was Fautanu to left guard or even right guard and moving McCormick over, I mean, that's still a pretty stout line in my opinion. And then you got Spencer Anderson, who, they were highlighting something that he was doing during the game where he was able to engage with Myles Garrett and then get out to the outside and get in front of the running back on a screen pass without getting too far ahead. Heads up play, athletic play by him. This offensive line is surely coming together. Do you think people owe Pat Meyer an apology yet?
An apology? I don't know. My opinion is if you have talent, and you draft well and you get guys that give solid effort, and then your guys they don't have any chemistry. They look like they're lost out there at times. That falls back on coaching, in my opinion. Now they go hand in hand. The players got to want it. The players got to work for it, and the coaches got to help them get there.
Yeah.
So, I give them a lot of blame, but I give, Broderick Jones a ton of blame. Trust me. Everybody knows. Yeah. I've been critical, but now I'm giving him credit too, because like I said, after the bye, they looked like they really took a step forward against a very tough Cleveland defense. Now we can joke all we want that, it's Cleveland and no. And I mean, I make I said the other day, I said Cleveland's still Cleveland, but their defense, especially that defensive line, is stout. They have a ton of talent. And to pitch a shutout, no sacks, limited hits. I think he got hit maybe 4 times or something. Nothing major, because you don't want him taking any big hits, even if it ain't a sack. And the running game had moments. And Cleveland was the number 1 run defense, if I ain't mistaken, coming into the game. So, I mean, I want to give Pat Meyer his flowers. Yeah, he that was a lot better ever. But maybe I'm expecting too much, but I kind of expected that. I want to see that on a weekly basis and continued improvement.
You see, to me, this was a little bit more a validation than anything else, because last week against the Vikings, the Steelers run offense was able to move the ball. Kenneth Gainwell had himself a game, and they did it once, right? Doing it once is one thing. Nobody was expecting it. Maybe perhaps they got lucky with some schemes, or maybe some player matchups favored the Pittsburgh Steelers. To do it again this week, and it wasn't like anything out of this world. They had 28 carries collectively for 100 yards, an 11-yard run long. They did have some bursts. They had 3 runs that were longer than 10 yards, one by Jaylen Warren, one by Kenneth Gainwell, and one by Jonnu Smith. Caleb Johnson had a 9-yard run in there as well, so he got some action. So they're doing some things. They're able to move the ball on the ground, and you're right. It's a step forward. It's not like they dominated on the run or anything like that, or on the running game, but against the defense that they were going up against, this was in my opinion, validation that they are moving in the right direction. Jaylen Warren, in my opinion, played like a man wanting to prove something. He was hard to tackle. He was fast. He had burst, and it's exciting, and it's a good problem to have when you have a him and Kenneth Gainwell and the things that he's done. Caleb Johnson got some action too. How do you see this disbursement of touches between the three running backs happening moving forward?
I thought it was a really good mix. If you got three talented backs, use them. It's a long season. It's a position. The guys were dropping like flies around the NFL. I mean, there's all these injuries.
Yeah.
Somebody was talking today. The offensive line play went downhill. There's not really any dominant offensive lines right now. There's some playing better than others, but there's some lousy offensive lines, and we know all about that because we've watched them in Pittsburgh for the last few seasons. So I don't know if that's part of the reason why that there's so many running backs that seem to be getting banged up and hurt.
Right.
But it's kind of becoming exchangeable or disposable position. Unless you've got a Barkley. I mean, even, Derrick Henry don't look like Derrick Henry without Lamar Jackson. Because you need the balance. You need to be able to throw the ball too. Back these guys off. I said before the game on Pump Your Brakes last week, I said they got to come out throwing and loosen up that defense and back that off because they're going to have trouble, real struggles. And when they opened the game with that play call to Darnell Washington, I was encouraged because instead of just being stubborn like they've done in the past, they took advantage of their aggressiveness. The jet sweep to Jonnu Smith, I think it was 11 yards or whatever, 12. That was a great call because, they haven't done that. They don't do it under Arthur Smith much, but it works perfectly when you set it up. The double move to Metcalf for the touchdown. Yeah. He should have had 2 touchdowns, but as I said, Rodgers underthrew him. But it was funny. My wife had left the room. It was in the kitchen. And when he did the stutter and I seen the corner lean forward, I said, touchdown, before he ever threw the ball. Now, because I didn't think he would underthrow him from that close. It was only about 30 yards out. But I said touchdown because, the only thing that guy could have done was tackle him or grab a hold of him and get the penalty. But he wasn't close enough and Metcalf went right back. But see, they set that up earlier in the game.
Yeah.
And that's something that Matt Canada and the previous regimes never did. But you're seeing Arthur Smith set stuff up based on teams are expecting that one play where they reverse field and then they hit the guy on the second level. They did it twice against the Jets. Teams are expecting that now. And now they can build off of that and run, either throw to the deeper guy or throw as it comes close because you've seen them start flowing towards that because they've seen it. You have to set up your future move based on what you've done in the past that teams are going to recognize by formation and by personnel.
For sure. And I think Rodgers was standing closer to the 50 when he let go of that ball. It still was short, but it was quite a distance there. And
I think he just put too much air under, don't you?
It looked like it went high.
Because he looked up in the sky because there is crosswinds. Yeah. It swirls up when you gets up so high. And it seemed like he just died. Yeah.
Well, it almost looked like it lifted up and then kind of came down a little bit quicker than he wanted it. Yeah, because he was kind of looking up, looking around. I thought maybe it hit a wire or something. But
we've seen that here recently, yes.
We have. And so, but how formidable is this duo? A lot of people talk about the certain wide receiver, quarterback duos in the league. I think that the Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf duo is becoming very lethal. He trusts him. He puts the ball where he can grab it. I'll be honest, I was a little bit concerned about DK's hands, in the first couple of games because there was a couple of drops there. But here recently, he's been just on it with the contested catches, with the catches along the sideline and things like that. And then, the guy still got the burst. When he caught the ball over the middle of the field, he just pulled away from people. And he's, I don't know if it's, I didn't pay attention to him when he was in Seattle, or maybe it's just the uniform, but he looks like a massive human being in that Steelers uniform running in the secondary against all those little guys back there. I would just keep feeding him the ball and getting him the ball at any way possible. He had 4 receptions, 95 yards, 1 touchdown, a long of 25 on 9 targets. there was some good coverage on him, and he was able to do what he could with what he had. What are your thoughts about DK Metcalf turning into that wide receiver one? I know there was some question marks, not necessarily that if he could or couldn't do it. I know that some people were more disappointed with the fact that they lost George Pickens and they didn't have a second option to go with him. But now that we've seen it for a few games and we've seen him come alive over the last few games, how do you feel about DK Metcalf now?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest, 100% with everybody because I always am. Don't miss George Pickens one bit.
There you go.
I don't miss the attitude. I know the talent, but I couldn't stand the package. I love DK Metcalf. Now listen, the guy's 6'4", about 225, runs a 4.3. They don't make humans like that. I mean, there's nobody in the NFL that can match him. Size, physicality, strength, and speed. His effort, we've seen him run down Buda Baker, but when you watch him, he's blocking, he's running downfield trying to throw an extra block. He doesn't take plays off. He's always intense. He's a winner. Now, only thing that's not a 10 out of his game is his hands. He's not a natural hands catcher. That's why he built his body to look like it does, because he has athleticism, he has speed, leaping ability, incredible strength, but he doesn't have hands. So he makes a lot of body catches. And he will miss some that, a guy who has really, really great hands might catch. But he's a Steeler to me in every way. I love Metcalf. Last year, he said during the podcast or the broadcast, he led the NFL in targets over 20 yards downfield. He is a big play down the field guy, because when you consider DK Metcalf and Darnell Washington, you have two of the biggest mismatches in the NFL that no team can match up with. There's nobody can match them two guys size and speed wise. And the Steelers got two of them. And then you put some other guys in there, you've got the makings of a really good offense. And I think that Rodgers and Metcalf are getting on the same page every week. The only problem with not playing them a lot in the preseason, and both of them, even though they are veterans, they still got to learn a new system and learn timing and playing together. And as a 41-year-old quarterback, I know they worked out together, but you don't want to throw your arm out in the offseason. So, again, they was probably limited.
Yeah.
But every week I expect them to get better. I love the combination, and I think it can be dominant.
Oh, I definitely do. I love it. I think it's growing. I think they're getting accustomed to each other. I think DK is getting accustomed to the way the ball spins and things of that nature. And
it makes a difference.
Yes. It does. And then the chemistry, and then, Arthur Smith learning Aaron and Aaron learning Arthur, and it's a collective thing, right? It's all a marriage, and they all have to work together. Mm-hmm. And so it really does look like this team is coming around offensively in a way that I haven't seen the Steelers offense in a few years.
Long time.
And it's nothing mind-blowing at this point either. 23 points ain't mind-blowing. Now, there was a lot of points left out there. Offensively, Boz had a missed kick because of the turf, and there was some interceptions and a possible pick six that was dropped by Herbig, and we'll get into the defense after the break. But they haven't been mind-shatteringly awesome yet, but they're getting there. They're getting to a point where they're being really, really effective, and in my opinion, complementary to what the defense is doing now. I mean, you got yourself a chance at anything. Look at what's going on right now with Atlanta and Buffalo. I haven't seen the score since we got on, but when we got on, it was 21-7 Atlanta. So it's open.
Hey, all I've asked for, and everybody knows this, for years, I want to see weekly improvement. If you do something repetitively, you should get better at it if you're putting the effort and the work in. And it just hasn't happened in the past. And a lot of it was schematic. I mean, if you don't use the guys, your personnel in the right position, if you don't use your personnel on the field schematically correctly to the best of their ability, you're a failure as a coordinator on either side of the ball. Yeah. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing what these guys can do. They're working together. They don't seem to hate each other. They don't seem to be avoiding each other. We're not seeing temper tantrums and pity parties on the sideline. You're seeing coaching. You're seeing, guys picking each other up and trying to be there. I mean, What with Caleb Johnson, they was literally there's teams in the NFL that might have cut him for that. I'll be honest, because that was that was the biggest play in that game easily, and but we're seeing him come back and contribute some, and you see the difference. His countenance, the rest of that game, the next week he was just destroyed, which you would be. My heart goes out to you. People make mistakes, but was he going to bounce back? The fact that he is contributing and you see his countenance and the level of confidence and his attention to detail and the things that Tomlin has said at a couple of press conferences about his work ethic and how he's working his way back, that says a lot to me about the coaching staff, including Mike Tomlin. Okay, we're going to rebuild this kid. We're going to forgive him. We're going to give him confidence and show him we believe in him. And, and not destroy a career over one mistake. But that could easily happen.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was the Jets that cut their returner.
Yeah, he was gone after our game.
Yeah, exactly. So it happens. We're going to take our quick break. When we get back, guys, we're going to talk about the defense and their performance and maybe even a little bit about this upcoming game against the Bengals. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after a few words from our sponsors. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the Hangover. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me is Shannon White. And today we're talking about the Steelers. Title of the show, Steelers wipe the Browns and take a step forward. But before we get back into it, I want to remind you guys of our website, SteelCurrentNetwork.com, the one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. Go check it out after you're listening to this. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're missing a lot of content if you don't catch the audio-only podcast, which include mine, State of the Steelers, which airs out on Saturdays about 11 a.m. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you go and check it out. Go check out if I was right or wrong on this last one. I'm getting more accurate on my predictions and things of that nature. And so without further ado, let's get back into the conversation. The defense did well. Jalen Ramsey was reported saying something to the effect that one day he's going to tell his kids that he was in a game with TJ Watt and Myles Garrett and got more sacks. He's easily becoming one of the fan favorites. I think he's becoming a very dominant player on the field. I know there was some question marks because people had questions about his attitude and maybe even his age. Man, he had a hamstring injury. It was unknown if he was going to go in there. Not only does he go in there, but he plays the entire game and is a dominant force. What is your opinion on Jalen Ramsey and what he's been able to do for the Steelers so far?
Met all my expectations. When they said they were bringing him in, I was so excited, if everybody remembers, because I said they're going to commit to being more aggressive, more creative. You can move him around. He can play safety. He can play slot. He can play outside. He can blitz, as you see. He's very physical against the run. He is the kind of corner I want. They had Jackson last year, and the guy didn't want to tackle. He didn't like tackle. He didn't like that part of the game. Joey Porter Jr. was not a good tackler when he first came. We got to remember. That's true. Now you see he is a much better tackler, much more physical. And I think that part of that is playing with a guy like Jalen Ramsey. Because if you're out there and you're not playing hard, and you're not playing hard-nosed football, he's going to embarrass you. Ramsey, the guy when he got one of the sacks, he hit the quarterback so hard, he hurt himself.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
He had to go out for a play. It's like, I think he knocked the wind out of himself.
Yeah.
But I was just glad about the concussion or something. But, he when he gets a chance to hit somebody, he hits them. And there's something else I got to talk about there, but we'll get to him here in just a second. I bet you're going to mention the guy I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I think that Jalen Ramsey's been a beast. He's been a dog. He's been out there. And it's new faces, some familiar ones, some people stepping up. You had, like I said, mentioned TJ Watt. He had, I think, half a sack and a couple tackles. But Nick Herbig again showed up again.
2 more.
You know, this guy is demanding time on the field, and they're giving it to him. I saw out there on several plays where they had him lined up next to TJ and Alex Highsmith on the other side.
Yeah, I love it.
The creativity is getting there. I believe this was the first game that the entire defense. Now, I didn't stay like that for long because there was injuries coming back and forth.
Yeah,
but this was the first game that the entire defense was healthy together on the field, and it showed up. I mean, they only allowed 9 points, and in reality, they probably should have taken the ball a few more times. You know, if there's a AFC defensive player of the week here, I mean, you got to look at probably Jalen Ramsey, maybe even Nick Herbig. If Herbig takes that one to the house, it's definitely him. But what are your thoughts on just like the pass rushers? They end up getting to Dylan Gabriel 6 times for 38 yards. What did you think about the pressure on the quarterback?
Guys, it's beautiful. I love pass rush. I love linebackers. Everybody knows that's my part of the game. I love hitting. Herbig is he's one of the 3 starters in my opinion. You got 3 starters. I've seen him go in, drop inside. I've seen Watt drop inside. Highsmith drop it into coverage. They use them guys. The creativity is beautiful. It's beautiful. Some guys I've been talking, Benton doesn't need to be in the nose. And guess what? Much less. They was using Equale. They was using Black. They used Adamoe. I think so you say his last name.
Oh gosh, don't
93. He was in there for a handful of snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, they used the rotation effectively and got pressure with all these guys. Because even a Black, Black's not, Harmon, we know how good he is. Black's not going to be an elite pass rusher, but he can collapse the pocket. Equale, he can get in there. And Ben, was on the field a lot less. But I've been saying that. I ain't saying he's bad, but he needs to be part of the rotation, not the starting nose. And that made a monster. It's made a huge difference the last couple of weeks. Getting him off that nose.
Yeah.
But Herbig is that guy's money. Right now, he had 2 sacks the day before, and I think he had 2 yesterday.
Yeah.
Then you bring in Sawyer, and he gets some pressure in there. And Watt is moving around like something we've always wanted him to do. And he's still such a threat that he got hit by 3 guys on one play. He was double teamed once and was being held and threw his arm up because the back judge was looking right at him. And he threw his arm up to show he was being held, and they never did call it. So he's still being held. Yeah. That's how good he is. But now you've got Herbig is dominant on the other side. So, if you're going to sacrifice 2 or 3 guys trying to stop Watt, other guys are going to eat.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And it feels good that this defense finally is more than just TJ Watt, because for a long period of time, that's what it was. Yeah. TJ Watt going out there getting a strip sack, TJ Watt blocking up a pass and somebody getting a pick, TJ Watt going up and intercepting the ball at the line of scrimmage. I mean, it was just constant, just him. And then teams started now to focus on him. Now the Steelers have a complementary defense, so to speak. It's not just him. Now they have other players that can pick up the pressure. They can pick up the slack, so to speak. They can, do what you expect them to do. And what I mean by that is, if you have a lot of attention going to 1 or 2 players, you expect the other guys in the interior to be able to handle one-on-one situations and to make some noise. And I think we finally are seeing that overall. The inside.
Have to mention, Highsmith looked great in his game back. I think having Herbig behind him is putting pressure, because Highsmith seemed he had a little extra burst, a little extra. I don't know. It was something. He set the edge great. He played the run great. He got pressure. He hit oh dang nabbit. Gabriel. He hit Gabriel right there when he threw one of the incompletions. I thought he was going to get the sack, because him and Watt were both getting there kind of at the same time. Yeah. But that was the best burst I've seen Highsmith have this season, and I thought that was his best game. But but we've got to talk about the inside linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody knows how much I love the inside linebackers. And they know I can be critical of the inside linebackers. And I told everybody that Peyton Wilson's fine. That he's going to be really, really good. Just, got to get some better linemen in front of him, not Benton.
Right.
Well, when you give him a little bit more protection up front, we're seeing him step up.
Right.
But I thought that was by far, and I think a lot of people is going to agree, I thought Queen had his best game as a Steeler by far.
Oh, yeah.
That's the guy they put that contract. They paid that money. That's who they want to see. He not only was flying to the football, he was laying some licks out there. He reminded me of Greg Lloyd. He was hitting people so hard he was getting stingers, I believe. And he would have to stay down on the knee for a second, as they were laid out. They didn't even get up and do it again. Hey, you see him playing less up here and more here.
Yeah.
And they just attack. When you can let him do that, oh, man, it's beautiful. And I thought he had a great game yesterday.
I think so too. The inside linebacker crew has been amazing, and I think they've done right by having that rotation between Peyton Wilson and Cole Holcomb.
Yes,
seeing a lot of Cole Holcomb out there isn't a bad thing.
He looks good. He looks good.
He looks like he belongs. He's not a. One of my biggest worry would have been, did he lose any burst or speed? And I don't think he did. He's still very cerebral as well.
Yep,
and, he was a guy that had the green dot. And so he's not having to deal with that. So that might also help him with the speed department, because now he doesn't have to worry about the thinking and things of that nature. And so, the inside linebacker crew did amazing. I mean, the defense as a whole, we're doing well. Judkins was running on teams. They had an offensive line that's been paid, when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. And so Judkins had 12 carries for 36 yards, a long of 6. Jerome Ford ended up having one run that was like 12 yards. But for the most part, that was about it. Totality as a team for the Cleveland Browns were 17 for 65. What do you think has been the biggest turnaround for this defense as far as the running game goes? Because it was a huge concern early on this season. And now, it seems like they might be, kind of getting a little stingy there in that department.
A combination of things. I think that the injuries, not getting to play together, a lot of the first string guys in the preseason. Benton, like I said, not a nose tackle, should not have been starting there. They had to play Loudermilk to begin the year, which caused all kind of problems because he should never be starting anything. Then you have Cam Hayward. I love the dude, but the dude was totally out of shape. I mean, he admitted he was out of shape. He wasn't in football condition because he didn't play any.
Right.
And so he's getting in shape games 1 and 2. And that's not ideal because he's the guy you're counting on to lead the group. He's your leader, and he's your best defensive lineman. So, there was a lot of things. But now we're starting to see what the defense can be. And I understand Cleveland's offenses, but hey, they can run the freaking ball. Yeah. They've showed that Jenkins is a heck of a runner, and they shut him down. Their 3 interior offensive linemen are all Pro Bowl level and have been together for years now. And so if you stop them running the football, you're doing something with that talent that they have. And so I was very impressed. It's what we're seeing now is kind of like what we thought we'd see, but we all were kind of concerned it would be a little bit delayed because of injuries and lack of preseason play. And sure enough, it took a while.
You know what? I'm looking at the stats, and I was looking at the stats here with the Steelers defense, and it's comparable to what the stats are with or it's right next to with the Browns. One thing I noticed is that the MVP for the Browns defense was Devin Bush. He had 9 total tackles, 7 solos, and that was the most in both of those departments. And he had 2 tackles for loss, which were also the most in that department. Did he have so many because the Steelers were targeting him? What do you think?
No, I think it was because that the offensive line did such a good job that he had to make so many tackles.
Yeah.
Because, there was one play in particular, I think it was Johnson, that, no, it might have been Warren. Anyway, he got stopped, and he was bouncing it outside, and Bush got him from behind.
Yeah.
And if Bush hadn't got him, he would have had at least a 30-yard run.
I remember that.
Because there was nobody else on the outside. But Bush caught him by the back end and got him by the ankles and took him down from behind. So, Bush showed effort in making tackles because guys were flooding right at him. And he did make some tackles. So, I'll give credit where credit's due. He showed more effort in that game yesterday than he ever did his last few seasons in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I just kind of looked over and I was like, man, is that Devin Bush with all the stats on the defense? That's crazy.
And made a couple nice plays. Yeah, I was shocked.
Well, that one that you're talking about, I thought they were going to get him for swinging around and trying to take out the legs of the running back.
They don't call that this year. You noticed that?
I thought it was a rule.
I've seen it happen multiple times this weekend and nobody called it.
Yeah, I thought that would have been a good time for it, to be honest with you. But defensively, the Steelers, Deshaun Elliott had 12 total tackles, laid a really big boom on one of the receivers, ended up getting a flag for that. He's probably going to, because there was some helmet-to-helmet contact. It wasn't something that I thought was, his fault. To me, it almost seemed like the receiver ducked into his head.
Yeah, it was from the side.
Exactly.
It's one thing if you're leading with the crown, but it was the side, but he hit him with the shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. And so I believe that receiver ended up leaving with a concussion. But Deshaun Elliott is doing well. How do you like, though, the other safety? It's been a little bit of a mix between Thornhill. Ramsey's been out there when Slay and Porter have been out there. Ramsey's been kind of mixing it up there as a safety as well. But for the most part, it's been Thornhill, it's been Clark, it's been Jabril Peppers. And I think that they're giving more snaps to Peppers as the season is kind of progressing. Are you surprised by that? I know he's been an excellent talent in the past, and so far, I mean, he's got a lot of heart. He's caused a little bit of splash already, especially against the Patriots game. I thought he was called for a bogus. We talked about it earlier. That was a bogus special teams penalty.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to see more Peppers as the season progresses alongside Elliott, or do you think he's more of a filler for Elliott?
I think him more as a strong safety.
Okay.
And Thornhill and Clark as the free safeties. But Peppers can, jump over and give you some good minutes at free safety too. So I think the versatility of having Ramsey who could play anywhere. Peppers can blitz too. I think Thornhill is a natural free safety, whereas Elliott is your natural strong safety. So I kind of like this mix. I like it. I don't want Clark out there a whole lot. If he's in the rotation, that's fine. I don't want him forced into being a starter, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If I had to have a starter next to Elliott, I'd rather have Peppers if it can't be Thornhill, is what I'm saying. But, I don't think we really sacrificed as much at safety as much as I love Fitzpatrick. I just like what Ramsey brings, that creativity, that versatility. There's so much you could do with that. And if you watch the plays that you have Ramsey and Peppers on the field and Elliott at the same time, that's the most physical back end the Steelers have had in the secondary in a long time.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Claude Bishop comes in with $2 saying, great show as usual, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Claude Bishop. We appreciate you. Thank you for your support. 100%, and I think this defense is moving in the right direction. Talk a little bit about this upcoming matchup. It's going to be a short week. It's against a divisional rival in the Cincinnati Bengals, who have acquired Joe Flacco, and they started him against the Packers. 100% agree that we believe that they're going to start him against the Steelers. This short week on the road, divisional game on a Thursday night has not been good for the Steelers, but I think that this situation here lines up for a positive possible outcome there. how do you feel about the short week and going into Cincinnati, this week?
Well, I'm like you. I picked this as a loss, when we were before the season started. Yeah. Because Thursday night on the road, division, the Steelers don't do well. But this team's different. They're a lot of veterans, a lot of experience, with the youngsters mixed in, of course. And I think that because of the creativity and the versatility we've been talking about, they're a hard matchup. Mm-hmm. Nobody plays the 13 formation like they do as much as they do. Heavy 12, again, Spencer Anderson, people don't realize that when he come out, he was one of the top 5% best, most athletic offensive linemen that year. He is very athletic. That's why he can play all 5 positions. Yeah. And we see it in the way they're using him. And I think he has a future as a starter in Pittsburgh. I really do. I love his versatility, and it's great to have him as the ultimate, depth piece. But, at times he's probably going to be forced in to be a starter somewhere down the line. And I think he has a lot of potential there. But I kind of, Flacco's like the Steeler killer. He has given Steelers fits because he's tall, he's big, he's got the big arm. He stands back there. He'll take the hit to deliver the ball down the field, deep downfield. He likes to throw down the field. You can't give him that because with Chase and Higgins and the talent they have in that passing attack, I can't ever think of that third wide receiver. I can't even say his name when I do see it. But I love that kid. I liked him coming out of college, and I'd like to see the Steelers try to trade him or get him somehow because he is a really great athlete. He's a matchup problem. Yeah. But I don't think they use him enough because they got, Chase and Higgins. But he scares me. But we know the Bengals are not going to have Hendrickson on defense, and probably not. I think he's dealing with a back injury. And then you got is it Gillespie? Gesicki. Yeah. The tight end, the big old tight end. I think he was
he's not going to be playing.
Yeah, so that helps because he's a matchup problem. He's really tall and athletic. So I want to limit Flacco's weapons. So take away the deep ball, make Flacco be patient because he don't like doing that. He likes to whip it down the field, and you can make him throw into some, coverage and maybe get some interceptions. And just so limit the big plays and make them beat you running the ball. And I think we can control the running game.
Oh, I agree. And I think the Steelers they go in there, they take care of business the way they're supposed to. They go 2-0 in the division, move to 5-1 on the year, and they get a little bit of an extended bye going into a matchup against the Green Bay Packers. A little bit of a revenge game for Aaron Rodgers and an opportunity for him to have basically beat all 32 NFL teams, which I think has only been 5 quarterbacks to have done that in the history of the game. And so I think everything's lining up for that. You can't look past this team, obviously. But like you said, there's a lot of veterans here. Mike Tomlin wasn't too well, I wouldn't say he wasn't too pleased. He said he was confused and shocked by the trade between the interdivisional trade between the Bengals and the Browns with a quarterback that Tomlin said that, hey, you had enough confidence to go into the season with him as your starter, and you just traded your starter to a team that was deficient in that position to allow them to get better. Do you think that him being, and I often use the term, he was salty, and I think that there's something to that. Do you think that he's upset that the Browns allowed the Bengals to get better? Do you think that maybe he's upset because maybe he was hoping Russell Wilson would have been traded there and that would have been better for the Steelers? Comp formula, situation. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, the Steelers could have had Flacco. Anybody could have had Flacco. At one point in the offseason, nobody was interested. And I didn't want Flacco in Pittsburgh.
No, neither
and I understand what Tomlin's saying, but I think Tomlin respects Flacco's game. and he's seen him beat the Steelers. I think he's 11-11 against the Steelers in his career with multiple teams.
Yeah.
And against the Steelers, that's a pretty good record for any quarterback. If you can win half your games against the Steelers, I mean, Lamar can't say that, and I don't think Burrows can say that yet. He might can now. I can't remember, but it's hard for guys in the division to have a 500 record against the Steelers.
That's true.
I think it's just a respect thing. I think that he kind of was saying that for various reasons, maybe even to send a message to his team about don't overlook. See, that was my only fear about Sunday's game. Don't overlook the Browns, because the Browns have a lot of talent. And I don't know if people were paying attention yesterday, but they got a lot of young talent. They had their way with the Steelers had their way with the Browns yesterday.
Yeah.
But if the Browns can finally get some decent coaching and not make some terrible decisions like letting Baker Mayfield out of the building, they've got Junkin, they got Fanning, they got multiple rookies in this year's class that look like the real deal. And if you watch the effort them guys were given, even when the game was kind of getting out of hand, it wasn't a lack of effort from them young guys. They were fighting. It took 3 or 4 Steelers to tackle Fanning every time he caught the ball, and I think he had 6 catches.
Yeah.
That guy could be a problem down the road.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. And so you respect your opponent, and you don't overlook anybody. And the Steelers definitely can't this week because, again, like you said, divisional game on the road Thursday night is not good for the Steelers usually. And you're playing a guy who's kind of got a reputation for giving the Steelers fits. And he has the weapons around him, at least on offense. So, I'm hoping that the Steelers can handle their business, because if they can go to 5-1, I feel a lot better. Because then again, as long as it's another week of showing sustainable improvement.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's the most important thing right now. Because you want to be playing your best football by the end of the year.
I agree. The good thing about Joe Flacco is he's a statue, and that offensive line ain't very good. And so I expect to see a lot of pressure against him and put a lot of pressure.
They got to have to hit him because he'll stay in there and take it.
Yeah, I mean, that was the reason that he beat the Steelers with the Colts. They weren't applying pressure. They were sticking to the game plan that they had against Anthony Richardson, which was they were going to try to let Anthony Richardson beat him with his arm. They were going to give him time to throw and make him make the decisions and the throws. And they continued with that with Joe Flacco, and he knew the defense too well. Well, Shannon, do you know if anything's changing this week for you as far as schedule goes?
Nope, still pump your brakes, 8:00 Wednesday, and I know I've seen our buddy Big G was in here earlier in the chat, so I know he'll have plenty to say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll be looking and following along. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, guys. Make sure you go check out the audio-only content and the website, steelcurtainnetwork.com. We appreciate everybody that's tuned in. Steelers are 4-1, first place in the AFC North. And who knows? Who knows how this thing unravels? It appears that there isn't a team in the AFC at this point that I think is not beatable. So, with that being said, you guys have a great night. Shannon, take us out, my man.